Hi, everybody, and welcome to another live interview as part of our Carta de Vinay project. We have a very special guest today. He is a Romanian photographer and wildlife researcher, and we're really, really grateful that he has taken the time on to talk to us about his book. My name is Andra from the Romanian Diaspora, and I'm here with my colleague Sonia, who you probably know most of the broadcasts, and our collaborator, Dr. Nicola Baird. On to our guest without further ado, and I will be shortly sharing my screen with the presentation he has prepared for us. Over to you.
It's coming, the presentation, yeah?
Well, while we're waiting, I could just say that Dian is an author and a passionate and dedicated conservationist, and also an award-winning fine art photographer, as Andrea mentioned. And his photos and texts have been published by National Geographic, among others. Right, presentation ready to go.
Here we are. The world as it once was, and as it still is, luckily. This book, it's a project which took me years in the making. Actually, it took the whole planet millions of years in the making to get, at this point in evolution. And what is interesting about it is that it puts together science and art, which is not very often, because most of the wildlife photography books, if they are presented as a fine art book, they have only a few words at the beginning of the book and then just images. And then the author will claim that the images speak for themselves, which they do to a certain extent, but that is not enough, I think. Then on the other hand, we have the science books. And those are pretty boring when it comes to the visuals. They are not really appealing. They are not taking you into action. They are not, taking you by the hand into willing to go there, to do that. They do not really inspire. They give you the data. If you are already interested in the topic, that's exciting. But if you are not, it won't be probably the best way to get you in. So that is why what I thought is to put the two things together, to have at the same time science and art. And this is how this project came together. It benefited from the scientific advice of 30 world-class experts, some of whom worked with the BBC and David Attenborough or National Geographic. And at the same time, around 100 different photographers from around the world contributed to this book. Now, what you can see on the next slide, you can see a couple of my achievements, activities. You can see the book, it's in the middle, it takes central stage. And then you can see different articles or covers of different magazines and journals that I provided, or reference to different conferences I delivered. Sometimes people reduce someone to one specific aspect. And of course, because images can be powerful, they are the first one to come. That is why a lot of times you can be labeled as a wildlife photographer, but I'm much more than that. And we will see soon that I took my research to such a level that actually I discovered, for the first time in more than 100 years, new world records. which in this day and time, it's pretty refreshing. So now if we can maybe get to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is here what getting now to the science. This is here what pretty much everyone would expect. This is a post from the American Museum of Natural History, New York. Yeah, these are the people who in general know very well what they are saying. But here, I think they are not so accurate. What they are saying at first sight, it looks true to us, because it reflects our common understanding or rather misunderstanding on these issues. And it says that mammoths were different from the living elephants, from Asian and African elephants in many respects, because they have bigger tusks. Those tusks were more curved and twisted, as you can see in this drawing. And then they also say that mammoths have bigger heads in proportion to their body size than the living elephants. This is not really true. And now if we can get to the next slide, we'll see already a comparison between this drawing of a Columbian mammoth, which was a slightly bigger and less heavy relative of the woolly mammoth. We can see on the one hand the mammoth, and on the other hand an Asian elephant who passed away in 2020. As you just look at the ivory size and shape, there are not big differences. And actually what is amazing is that actually that drawing of the mammoth is not based on the fossil record. It's just the imagination of an artist, based on another representation by a different artist who did actually a Colombian mammoth replica for La Brea in LA, yeah, for that museum. So that is something which could have been happening to have such an individual, but actually is not based on the fossil record, is not based on reality. It's an artistic rendition. And on the other hand, we have an Asian elephant, which was perfectly alive and well till it passed away of old age just a few years ago. So this is something that we already need to know. And now, of course, the other argument we'll get from an average person will be, oh, yeah, it may happen. But for the mammoths, maybe that was a rule to have that, to carry that big ivory. But for an Asian or an African elephant to sport that big ivory, that is rather the exception. They are exceptional. They are not the rule. This is not how their species were designed in the first place. Now say, hold on, because what we are comparing, we are not comparing the original design of these glorious pachyderms. Asian elephants of today are after 3,500 years of human-made reverse selection, the opposite of natural selection. What happened is that big ivory carriers from the Asian elephant species have been constantly caught from the wild as babies, held captive in different contexts by rulers, for the army, for different religious entities, or to work in forest exploitations. And they never reproduced. They never made babies. That is the big issue. And each time, another imposing individual with big ivory was caught as a teenager from the wild. And at that stage, you can see already that the tusks are getting to grow big. So after 3,500 years, we suffer from what is called a shifting baseline syndrome. Yeah, because the best baseline today, when we look at the species, that we have very few individuals. I counted, I think, in total alive today about 30 Asian elephants with pretty big ivory. And out of these 30, only 15 are truly like mammoth-sized ivory, yeah, from a whole species. So this is the baseline today, but this is not the real baseline of the species, because this comes, as I said, after a lot of humans messing up with the reproduction of Asian elephants. Yeah, for African elephants, it's similar, but that was not captivity, but was hunting in the millions. Yeah, in the millions they were hunted, and always the hunted individuals were the ones carrying bigger ivory. So if you do that for quite also a few thousand years, and especially in the last 150 years, then what is left today is not the same as it used to be. It does not really represent the normal design of the living elephants. Yeah. And another very important point, people will say, so what? Why should I care about this big tusks? Well, this is important because studies in southern India examining elephant dung, you know, a famous researcher called Raman Sukumar, he noted that dung coming from elephants with longer ivory had fewer parasites, nematodes. So this means that the longer the tusk, the healthier the elephant. An elephant with bigger ivory, the big ivory is a health certificate. Yeah, it's a health certificate showing to the elephant ladies that this is a healthy bull with superior genetics ready to mate. Unfortunately, there are very few left today. Maybe we can get to the next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah. Here, these are reconstructions of woolly mammoths. You can see here a mother with a baby. Another misconception which got imprinted in our collective perception, you know, of mammoths is that always mammoths come with huge tusks, which is not really true. And when you see all those depictions of mammoth families, mammoth herds of females with babies, you see all females sporting very long and even thick ivory, which actually belong to the males. A female woolly mammoth rather look like this one, an average one. Only matriarchs, which were really old, could sport this kind of ivory. Yeah. So that is why I think it is important to provide viewers the true depiction of a woolly mammoth. These replicas are some of the best I'm aware of, and they were done in the Netherlands by paleontologist Dick Moll, together with paleo artist Remy Becker. Yeah, they are some of the world leading experts in this field, and also contributors to my book, scientific advisors and photographic contributors. And maybe we can now get to the next slide. Thank you. This is a woolly rhinoceros, another replica, again by Dutch scientist and paleo artist Dick Moll and Remy Becker. This rhino used to be the most widespread rhinoceros in the world. It was basically from the Iberian Peninsula to the Bering Strait. Yeah, all Eurasia. Unfortunately, it disappeared from accumulation of factors, mainly predation by humans, and also climate change. The two issues came together and led to the demise of this species. And in the book, The World as It Once Was, what I'm doing a comparison between the most iconic Ice Age giants and the most iconic giants of today. And you'll see in the book that not only woolly rhinoceros used to sport such big horns, but actually the black and the white rhinos of today, they sport horns of exactly the same size, is not even longer. Yeah. Again, it's a matter of shifting baseline syndrome. It's a matter of coming now after hundreds of years of hunting, after hundreds of years of man-made reverse selection, and the exacerbation of all these issues with poaching, habitat loss, encroachment. Maybe we can get to the next slide. And this brings us from the past to the present. The warrior of the Carpathians. This bison was photographed by me in Romania a couple of years ago. I worked for a couple of years to get this image with local guides. I was always in touch with them when certain bison of interest to me were sighted. And for this one, I just got on a flight. I went to Romania, and the snow came exactly the evening that I arrived, because this is the last snow of the year. This is sometime in March. And I looked at the weather forecast. I said, look, sometimes, all elements come together. The wind is blowing in the right direction. The stars get aligned. And this is what happened. The woods were dry. It was already March. The snow melted. The bears started already to be out, from hibernation. And it was hard to really get, because I tried in deep winter. I tried in the depth of winter, end of January, when it was like, I don't know, -10, -20, with lots of snow. And I couldn't get the picture. I found the bison, but I couldn't get the picture that I had in mind. And I always, want to improve. I want to fail as close as possible to perfection, And for this picture, really, things came nicely together. As I said, when I arrived the evening before this shot, it started snowing. So I said, it is good. It is what I need. And then the next morning, there was a nice snow powder around. And then when I got into the woods and we managed to locate this amazing bull, it started snowing a little bit more seriously. And I said, wow, this is just perfect. And here he was on a higher ground in the woods, because this is a hilly area. These are the sub-Carpathians. These are the foothills of the Carpathians. They are already quite high for UK standards. You can call them already mountains, But for Romanian standards, they are like bigger hills. And as you can see, it's a mixed forest, deciduous and coniferous forest. It's already a mixed one. And we followed this bull, and at a certain point, he was on a higher elevation than me, which facilitated a lot my job in taking a nice image, because I was safer. Normally, the bison will not just come down. And I had also these trees around me, to maneuver around. And actually, without going flat on my belly, I could take, this kind of very low angle picture with the bull, only from, I think, about 10 meters away. It was super close, and I was safe. And I was at the level of its hooves, which was amazing, because this way you get this image of a towering giant, because this is the most important, I think, question from an artistic perspective that I asked myself when I embarked, on the journey of working on this book. If a statue, a monument, were to be raised to a species, what would that look like? And if I would have to raise a monument to an European bison, then it will look pretty much like this one. You can see the hump, you can see a little bit of attitude, but without being aggressive. You can see interest. It has big horns, very nice double hump. It's a solidly built individual at the end of his prime. It's exactly what you expect from such an iconic species. Maybe we can go now to the next slide, please. So one of the most iconic species of today, of course, are Asian elephants. And people are used to downplay them a lot. first they say, oh, but they are domesticated, which is not true. Is it a lion in a zoo, a domesticated lion? Of course it's not, even if it is the 5th generation born in captivity. Of course that is not a domesticated lion. It takes much more than that to get from a wolf a dog. Yeah, it takes much more than that. So all these Asian elephants, which are downplayed, and people say, oh, they are, you know, so many of them are domesticated animals. This is not true. It's actually, for most of them, it's actually the first and the last generation in captivity, because they were taken as babies from their mothers in the wild and then have held captive, and then they didn't pass on their genetics to the next generation. In this case, this particular bull was actually fully wild. He enjoyed a full life in the wild. He passed away 2 years ago, age around 60, which is pretty much as old as an elephant gets in the wild. His name was Mr. Kabini. Bogeshwara was the icon of the southern Indian state of Karnataka. Yeah, a very, very special elephant with plowed earth ivory coming all the way down to touch the ground. He had to raise his head to walk. Sorry. You see, such a beautiful.
Do you want to take a moment and just maybe grab a glass of water while we whilst we admire the elephant?
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Mm. I think you're still on mute, Dian.
You see, this is such an impressive elephant that I literally lost my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just amazing. It leaves you speechless, voiceless. And it's amazing that after all these things that happen, all these challenges, we are so privileged to be a generation which has still the possibility to save these animals and still has the possibility to witness them alive in their environment. Yeah, this is, I think, precious. It's not only precious, this is priceless. For me, when meeting such a giant is like traveling back in time. It's really traveling back in time, you know, to a time when the world was a wilder place, when all this megafauna lived in harmony together, you know. And maybe we can go now to the next slide, please. This is an elephant, very special for me, is featured at page 260 of the book. His name was Raja, and he's the only elephant that I named the Great. So he's Raja the Great. Raja means king. He is the greatest of the kings. And what is so special about this elephant? This elephant, I give you first a bit his story, about his story. He was born in Mysore, which is again in the Indian state of Karnataka in southern India. And then, you know, like China is doing the panda diplomacy, India is doing the elephant diplomacy. So they are sending baby elephants around the world, you know, as a sign of friendship. And this was sent to the former Soviet Union. Other ones, very, very impressive individuals today, but they were sent as babies to Japan, to other places. And this one, once arriving in the Soviet Union, it was sent to Riga in Latvia. And this is where he spent most of his life. But then at some point, he was sent to the Emmen Zoo in the Netherlands, where he spent pretty much the last 10 years of his life and fathered many babies. And he passed away in 2013. And by coincidence, 2013 is the year when National Geographic publishes that amazing story called Of Mammoths and Men, which was documented and photographed in northern Siberia. And maybe you still remember that image with a mammoth hunter holding an immense, tusk of a woolly mammoth over the tundra. Yeah, and that tusk is more than 3.5 meters long. But what is interesting is that the very same year, in 2013, this elephant passes away, and the mammoth-esque size of his ivory passes unnoticed to the scientific community, to the general public. So while we marvel ourselves at this kind of stories and pictures in National Geographic of mammoths and men, we have the mammoth alive among us, and we don't cherish it. We even don't know about it. And what is very nice about this particular individual is that he displays a lot of very interesting features. First, this was a tall bull, over 3 meters at the shoulders, 3 meters 15 at the top of the back. This is big size. Then he had also an enormous head. And this enormous head, as you can see on the top of the head, has 2 huge domes. And those domes are partly because of the skull, how the bone is structured, but on top of that, these elephants have some muscles called splenius superficialis, which are absent in African elephants. And most likely they were absent in woolly mammoths. At least in the woolly mammoth studies so far, we couldn't find any evidence about the existence of these particular muscles. And this gives a particular shape and size of the head. So coming back to that American Museum of Natural History post, Facebook post, saying that mammoths had bigger heads relative to their body size. No, it's not true. I personally measured most of the top 10 skulls preserved in Asian elephants. I measured, or I had friends of mine, scientists, who measured the biggest skulls preserved in the world of woolly mammoths and the biggest of African elephants. And guess what? The biggest are those of the Asian elephants. The mammoths will better them only in alveolar length. But for the eye to the top of the head, where the woolly mammoths were famous, right? Because in all these paintings, you see the woolly mammoth with a very high head, yeah? And people think that this is how it should be. Well, put that woolly mammoth next to an Asian elephant like this one, and this one will be bigger, yeah? Both in relative size and normally also in absolute size, yeah? This is very important. And I say it for the very first time in my book. This is the first book who says that. And after this book was published, I continued, I deepened my study, and I was rewarded beyond my wildest expectations. What happened is that I got finally the agreement to take actually the tusks out of the skull of this particular specimen. So 10 years after he passed away, I went there and I personally took out the left tusks from the skull. How long do you think it is? It is almost 11 feet, almost 3.3 meters. This is the new all-time world record Asian elephant tusk by length. And I discovered it. Yeah? So what you see before your eyes, and it's featured in the book, this is the all-time world record by length. 3.3 meters on each side. Absolutely amazing specimen. And he's not alone. What I discovered also is not featured in this PowerPoint and in my book, because that was a subsequent discovery. I discovered also the thickest tusk of an Asian elephant. because the ficus so far were two tusks preserved in the collection of the London Natural History Museum, which belong actually to the British royal family, a gift from Nepal from 1911. So from 1911 till now, that record was not bettered. But now I discovered even thicker than the London tusk, and also should be also heavier, because thickness determines a lot the weight of the tusk, especially if we talk about similar length. Those tusks are about 2.7, yet the London tusk, and the new world records from India, which are thick, are about 2.5 meters long. Yeah. So you see, my passion and my research took me to places I never dreamed of. When I started as a kid, you know, to learn foreign languages and to get the book presents from my parents and my grandparents, because they wanted me to learn foreign languages, they bought me a lot of books in different fields. And my choice was going more into wildlife. I had history book, art book, science books, you know, all sorts of books. My parents have an impressive, you know, book collection. And my choice went more and more into this direction, wildlife. This is how I learned foreign languages, which helped me, you know, get a better paid job, travel abroad, see the world. And even when I embarked on this journey, on working on the book and showing the value, the amazing value of these living elephants, at that point in time, I could not anticipate that actually I will discover for the first time in more than 100 years new world records, because the former world record by length were tusks of a royal elephant from Thailand, 3 meters long, from 1880. Those were the longest. Now I discovered something longer, and when I did the book, I said 2 meters 60. This like page 260 in the book, 2 meters 60 the tusk length, because this is what I was given. At the time, I didn't get the approval to go and measure myself. And the measurements were taken just outside of the outer curve of the part of the tusk which is outside of the head. But actually there is another 65 centimeters in the alveoli, yeah? In the tusk sockets, another 65 centimeters. So when you add the numbers, you get close to 3.3 meters, yeah? The new all-time world record. Maybe we can go now to the next slide. Questions time. This is probably the picture that I'm best known for, but there are several now, and there will be more to come. This picture was published, as you can see, by National Geographic, Your Shot, and I was pleasantly surprised, for instance, when I visited the Dublin Natural History Museum, you know, the one founded by David Livingstone. When I visited that museum, I was, you know, just measuring some very nice Irish giant deer, you know, antlers, and looking at other very nice specimens in their collection. And I showed to the people working for the museum this picture, and when they saw that, I felt like a rock star. They came to me, oh, we want to take a picture with you. You're the one with this picture from National Geographic and all that. It was an amazing moment. Yeah, so I'll leave you with that. I'm sure you have plenty of questions. I can talk for days, if not for weeks, about all these things in the book, about the scientific side, the artistic side, how to photograph. But my preference when giving talks goes actually on the science, because I want to pass certain messages to people. Yeah. And of course, the images, because they are powerful, they are beautiful, they are inspiring, they just help me pass that message. Okay, thank you very much. So I'm happy to get questions.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I should just finish off my brief introduction there when I was saying that you're your photos and texts have been published not only by National Geographic, but also BBC Earth, Geo, Wild Planet, Photo Magazine, Asian Geographic, Africa Geographic, Pachyderm, and Cranium, among others. And you're also an inspirational speaker on biodiversity and environmental issues at events in Africa, Asia, Europe, and North America. So yeah, I wonder how you, obviously I don't want to define you just, as you said, as a fine art wildlife photographer, because you're so much more than that, as I've just delineated. But how did you sort of come to work in this kind of space?
Well, as I said, but I touched upon it very briefly during my presentation, is the fact that as a kid, my parents offered this opportunity to read a lot of books about wildlife, animals, and I really felt that is my deep call, and that passion never left me. So then I pursued, my higher education, my university studies, a PhD and all that. I'm actually working in a slightly different field, but that passion and that interest, they never left me. And that is very important. That is why when you educate your kids, be careful the seeds that you put, in their minds, because they may end up, loving elephants. Yeah. Not that this is a bad thing, but yeah. So this is how it all started. And then about 10 years ago, I really had also the financial means to really pursue this, in the sense of being able to travel, to document myself, because this is actually a quite expensive hobby, wildlife photography. And especially if you want to do it, world class, if you want to be top of the top, if you want to really reach the highest that it is, if you want to bring innovation, if you want to bring new perspectives, fresh subjects, for that you need a tremendous amount of research, because in the field you cannot afford, time-wise and money-wise, you don't have all the time and all the money in the world, so you have to maximize that time in the field. And that means that you put a lot of, you front load, and you do a lot of research. You see what other scientists discovered, what other photographers came up with. You see which are the most interesting perspectives, the most interesting, scientific observations. And then, as Isaac Newton put it, we are where we are because we raced on the shoulders of giants. Yeah. So there are people before you who paved the way for your research, for your artistic achievements, so that you can take it to the next level. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I was just quickly checking before we started on our own questions. I was just checking that there's nothing else on social media or in the chat that we wanted to pick up first. So you've told us a little bit about the book and how it's different from other science and or photography books, and you've touched upon your career and how you ended up doing this. But how was the actual book born? How did it come about? What is its story?
The making of from a logistical perspective, or
Well,
I
mean everything, whatever you think would be interesting.
Well,
yeah,
that's actually a headache. It's a headache. It's part probably that one should like the least, and it's also time consuming. Just imagine, I had 30 scientific advisors, but I contacted more people. So some of these scientists, I really felt that their input is not relevant enough for what I was doing, or was not pertinent, or was not good enough, not well documented. So I stopped those discussions, but I continued with those people who are really bringing added value, to my knowledge, to my progression of understanding of all these issues. And that took a lot of time. Then a lot of time, just imagine there are 100 different photographers contributing to this book. So I have to present the project, to pitch the project to all of them, and to say, do you want to contribute with that phenomenal, shark picture, or elephant picture, or bison picture, or bear, or lion? Do you want to contribute to this book? So that was a whole process. Some of the photographers were, I don't know, should I put it more easygoing? It was easier to persuade them. But for others, really, they asked me a lot of details. I have to have, a lot of phone calls. Some even wanted to meet me in person. And I can understand that, because what I asked for from them for this project were their best images in their portfolios. Because for other, this kind of collective book projects, you know what it happens? The person doing that is contacting, a couple of big names in the field, and they are saying, yeah, we are doing a book on this topic. So do you have something for us? And then those photographers will just deliver something, and the book author will be super happy with that, and this is it. But with me, it was not like that, because sometimes they delivered to me something that I really didn't want for this book. So I said, yeah, this may be a good image, but it doesn't work for this one. So for this one, I want that one, or not, or we are not doing it. So, that was a much longer process for me, first to identify the images, and then to persuade the people to give me precisely those images and not others. Yeah. And some people didn't want to provide images for the book free of charge. And all the people, all scientific advisors and all photographic contributors who provided free of charge, they got complimentary copies of the book. And that was also pretty expensive exercise, because this book, it's very costly to produce. The quality of the paper is not the standard paper that you get in this kind of books. It's really very thick, high quality paper, which is also very expensive. So the materials themselves in the book are very expensive. So to produce this book and then to ship it internationally, and I have these photographic contributors and scientists from all over the world, from Australia, from Hawaii, from places that I never traveled to, and most of us probably will never go to. And I had to ship, copies of the book, because they were so kind to help the project, all over the world, to Japan, to Hong Kong, to wherever. And this was very costly, especially that the book was ready before Christmas. And this postal services, actually, they charge a little bit a higher rate before Christmas. And I wanted all these people to enjoy the book before Christmas. So imagine that was, a very high cost to do all these things. And as I said, material selection, I checked different samples brought from different countries. There is also a limited edition version of the book, which is only 100 copies. Already part of this are gone. So all this, it was a very laborious and long process. And then there is the part regarding marketing, and that is another headache, because this is, one of the best products you can get. But the marketing, I didn't have, and I still don't have, proper marketing channels. Some other people are coming with a product which is of less quality in every respect. It's slim science, or they are not well documented, uneven photographic quality, because some images are powerful, some are just there to fill in the pages. Unrepresentative subjects. Here you can see all subjects are very carefully, chosen. Only the biggest tusk elephants, the biggest horned rhinos, the most impressive lions, the biggest bears. It's very hard, to get this kind of quality, of consistency in quality. And this is another challenge. But as I said, other books, they don't have this consistency. They have 2-3 powerful images, and the others are just to fill in the pages. And they don't have the science, or the science is wrong, the science is slim, But they have amazing marketing, because it happens that those people are in certain networks, and those books will sell, much better. And this is something that I still hope will change with this book, because as you probably know already, all profits from this book are donated. They are going, when you order one of these books on Amazon Co. UK, those money will go to a conservancy in Kenya. Yeah, which is not my conservancy. They are not going to me. Yeah. So I'm helping projects. I try to help, but unfortunately, I don't manage to help as much as I would like to, because there are still hundreds of books waiting to be sold, which are already printed, and I'm ready, and I have the agreement from the contributors to print more copies, but I will not print them unless the current stock is exhausted, is sold out. So I think this is unfortunately one of the issues. And I really paid a lot of attention also to the way I crafted the text in the book, because when you open the pages and you read the text, it's not just the scientific text next to the image. But I tried, because actually I passed through several drafts, because you asked me about the genesis of the book. So the first draft was just the science, what I wanted to say. But then what you see here, the final product, is how I actually managed to say it, how I wanted to say it to better pass on the message. So what I did is that I imagined myself, and sometimes it happened because I delivered a lot of conferences, while working on the book. So while delivering conferences, you get feedback, you interact with people, and the ideas, get always better and better and better in the way you present them. You make some small jokes, you present, you make some fresh comparisons and all that. So that is why, the text was always improved, always getting better, to a form that I said, okay, now it is ready to be published. Now it's ready to go. Yeah. So this is how I hope that this provides an overview of all this logistical and genesis challenges and problems that I faced. Yeah,
definitely. And having been on the receiving end of this wonderful book that you've presented, I can definitely vouch to its very, very high-end luxury quality of both the paper and the content. When I received it, it was like Christmas came early. It's absolutely stunning, and it's one of the heaviest books I've seen. So I definitely see your challenge in shipping it around the world and getting it to people. But I was wondering if we could spend a little bit of time on something that I hold very, very dear. It's to do with my favorite insect as a child. And it's actually part of your book. It's referred to as the
is it a
strongest
stag beetle
among mortals. So I was wondering, how do beetles come into this world of giants? And what can you share in terms of challenges?
It is a giant.
Yeah, so challenges and research that are related to these beauties.
Yeah. Actually, the place I am right now in Romania, it's a place not famous only for bison and wolves and the bears and all that, but also for stag beetles, because here we have old oak forests. And stag beetle, the oak tree is the symbol of Britain, but also the symbol of Romania, for those who didn't know that. Our national rugby team is called the Oaks. Yeah, the Romanian national rugby team. They are the Oaks. And this is a tree which play an important role in the history of Britain, because of sheep and all that, shipbuilding and all that, but also in the history and in the symbolism of Romania. And we have even a phrase in Romania which says, like, towering as an oak tree, falnic ca stejarul. That is the term of comparison. And where the oak tree is also the place, the heaven for stag beetles. Yeah, for stag beetles. These are the biggest beetles in Europe, I think. They are impressive, and why they are featured in the book? Because they fit in the same logic. They show that, and actually they help me explain all this weaponization of the animal world. And the fact that this brings me to another very interesting issue, which is explained in the book. Why do we have these big weapons, big ivory, big, kind of, how should I say, of the stag beetles? They are like
Pincers.
Yeah, big pincers of the stag beetles. How did we get to that? This is not mainly for fighting, but for deterrence. It's like having, a nuclear bomb and you don't use it. You don't need to use it because everybody around knows that you have it. So this is actually getting everyone more peaceful. This kind of animals will fight less than animals with smaller weaponry. Yeah, this is scientifically demonstrated and it's explained in my book. And it's true also for stag beetles. Sometimes they have to fight, and those in the book, they are fighting at some point, and the bigger one wins. Yeah. So sometimes this becomes inevitable. What is important is that these weapons, on the one hand, they serve as a deterrent, but on the other hand, they serve, and that is actually their main function, is to impress the ladies. Yeah, because this is a sign, like the big tusk in the elephants, the big horns in the rhinos, the big antlers in the deer, in the giant moose. Yeah, the dark and big size, the dark mane and the big size of the male lions, they all have to do with natural selection. And we're showing to the females that these are desirable males because they have these desirable features, which are actually costs in biological terms. They are an investment, a cost. And if you can handle that, it shows that you are strong and you can father, the next generation. And these stag beetles, they're unfortunately in danger across Europe. According to the European legislation, they are featured in Annex 2 of the EU Habitats Directive. Yeah, they are an endangered species. In Belgium, for instance, the country where I currently live, there is very hard to find stag beetles. And actually, I'm going almost every June, during the warm evenings, to see them emerge, and start to fly around, and mate and all that. So I really love these stag beetles, and this brings us nice childhood memories, because of course when we were kids, even in Romania, there were more stag beetles than there are now, because there were more woods. They need this rotten wood, of oak trees, because they spend like 2 years, I think, underground as larvae, and they need that to feed. So they need really old forest, healthy forests, to thrive. And that's less and less of that in Europe. Plus, they have this challenge of collectors. They want, to collect always the biggest males with the biggest pincers, and that is why in Belgium right now, to find a male over 5 centimeters, it's a huge challenge. In Romania, I think you can still find males between 7 and 8 and something, 8.5 centimeters, which are really big and nice to see. Their whole experience. I'm looking forward, each year I'm hoping to see some stag beetles. So I'm very happy that you raised this question.
I'm really pleased then. I absolutely love them. They're my childhood monsters. But gentle giants, really.
Gentle, I can hold them, sometimes I hold them on my hands. But you have to be careful with females, because females, they have, the smaller mandibles.
Females
and
are always
those smaller mandibles can actually inflict a quite nasty bite. So with them, I'll be more cautious. But males, I have pictures with them just walking on my hand,
There we go. Thank you for that.
My question is slightly more provocative. I'm wondering why you decided to make this project a book rather than, say, a documentary film, or I can imagine that you'd want to make a film perhaps after having produced this book.
Well, I would like to transform it in a film, in a movie, but the book was something that was a stepping stone, let's say, to a wider reach. And it's something printed is on paper, servers can go down, IT things can get lost, can get bugged. But this paper, of course, this can also burn in a fire. But I thought that this is, and especially on this quality of paper, which is guaranteed to last, more than our lives, I thought that this is a good medium to leave a trace of my research and my artistic, journey. And that is why I did this book. Actually, I tried to pitch this idea to different filmmakers of documentaries, but I'm not successful so far, because also the way you pitch it, you have to be recommended by someone, and it's very hard, That is why if you happen to know someone, more than happy to make this book a documentary, because this will help reach a wider audience. And that will be, I think, extremely important for the kind of educational message I want to pass. So definitely that is something that I would love to do, but was not possible so far. And something else that maybe I should share with you, which was a point of disappointment for me in this journey. As I said, there are so many other photographic and scientific contributors to this book who are actually very happy to help, and I'm really grateful for all their efforts. But some of them, or a lot of them even, didn't want to help too much to promote the book. And some of them told me, straightforwardly, why? Why was that? Because they said, but do we get money from this? Because this money goes to this kind of NGOs, I don't know, in Africa, wherever, but not to our NGO or to our thing. So this is this kind of competition for resources. And I was super disappointed, because I was talking to people who are like sharing my passion. For instance, are like world-leading researchers on elephants or on rhinos, world-leading conservancies or NGOs on those aspects. And they didn't really want to help me promote that, because money was not going to them, was going to somebody else, It was also not coming to me. But just to see how these people are, even if they all say that they believe in one common goal, when it comes to money, it's everybody for himself, herself. I was so much disappointed. And some other photographers, they said, sorry, we help you with the image. That's already great. Of course, I'm grateful for that. But they said, we will publish soon our own book wherever, and we want to use the followers we have on media to buy our books and not this common book. Because from our book, all the money will come to us, or most of the money from this book, it goes somewhere else, So, on the one hand, there is this alleged unity in fighting, to save the megafauna and these iconic animals. But when you really need these people, to do to walk the extra mile, then, they will say, look, our support is there, but is limited to giving you an image or some scientific advice, but don't ask us also to help you sell it, actually. And this is bad, because they agree with the ideas in the book. They contributed to those, and still, because the money is not going to them, they are just silent about that. And they are just sending me, nice bilateral messages saying, oh, what a wonderful book. Fantastic. I'm so happy. I'm so honored to be one of the scientific or photographic contributors. But that's it. It's a bilateral message, which is good, I'm happy because of that. I'm happy that these people appreciate it. But of course, I would really love to reach a wider audience. and to get people, you know, inspired by that and to continue that, because, you know, I can take it all this to a certain point, which my time and my financial resources, limited financial resources allow. But, you know, other people can take it from there, but to take it already from a certain point in research, which is quite advanced. So they don't have to you know, to take it from sea level. They take it already from the Carpathians, and then they want to reach the Himalayas, yeah? So this is something, yeah, that that's one of my disappointments.
That is really sad to hear, and I mean, we're very grateful for your time, and hopefully this is another opportunity to open up your book to a wider public. And as I mentioned before we started the live broadcast, pretty much everything we do online is free to the public. So if this recording and what we end up putting on YouTube channel is any use to you in publicizing the book, please, you know, use those links, use
Sure,
all that
sure,
you
sure.
can to
Thank you so much
to help.
for your time. And
No,
for,
we're loving it, and thank you for the book. I mean, that is very valuable to us. Obviously, we're all book lovers here, so just receiving that is in itself a huge gift. in addition to your time. So trying to move on to hopefully a sort of happier topic, a more pleasant topic. You spoke very vividly and with a lot of heart about some of the photographs that you've taken during your presentation earlier. What was your favorite moment out of all of the photographs that you've taken for this book? Is it one that you've already spoken about, or is it something else?
well, one of my favorite moments was my first actual opportunity to see a live big tusk elephants, to be just meters away from them. And in the book, for instance, there are featured 3 big tusk Asian elephants, which I photographed in the same location in northern Thailand. And that is a very special memory, because first I saw one of those elephants, which is the one in the book, the picture called Asian Jade Reflections. It's a cross tusker. This is what I call the great tusker salute, which is a hug, because if you put your hands like the cross tusk of the elephants, it's a hug. So that's the elephant hugger. And you know, when seeing that elephant alive just a few meters from me, it's hard to describe in words the feeling that you have. It's really, for somebody passionate and who has seen before only pictures, and you know, a kid growing with this woolly mammoth myth and all that, and seeing that actually there are elephants alive in the same league, that was amazing. And then it was like 1 or 2 days afterwards, I saw another one, and was even more jaw-dropping, like, oh, I didn't think that I can be even more amazed. And the other one is the one which was featured, you know, by National Geographic. And then at the end of my stay there, that was the third one which actually opens the chapter on Asian elephants, one called Jumpui. And, you know, it's hard to be amazed when you get it in gradual doses, yeah? Because they were all like, wow, wow, wow. Eye-popping, jaw-dropping, speechless, you know, you put it. And when I saw that one, that was still like super fresh reaction. It was a very moving moment for me, and I was super impressed. So these are the kind of memories that I will always cherish. I will always cherish. And I wish to you to see this kind of elephants in reality, you know. And maybe now that you know about them, you saw them here, you know. And some of them are captive, you know. Some of them are captive in Europe. So it's not that far away, you know. One of them, for instance, is in Belgium, in a zoo in Belgium. It's called Chamundi, in a zoo called Paradisa, like paradise. So I think that one, there is another one in Poland, in a zoo in Poland also, with very big ivory. So there are a couple of them. There is this Siam Junior in Switzerland, but his ivory is not big yet. He's very big individual, very tall, you know, like his father. So there are a couple of them which you don't have to travel to expensive destination. You don't have to go very far away. And, you know, seeing this elephant in captive, as I said, Chamundi, in Belgium, he comes from the same place with Raja the Great, from Mysore, from the Indian state of Karnataka. They are from the same gene pool. And seeing this elephant, I got some special access, and I got like behind the stage, you know, backstage, and I was just a few meters from him. Wow. Wow, it's hard to put it in words. It's hard. It was super impressive. And bear in mind the fact that I was meters away from some of the biggest tuskers in Africa in the last, you know, like 30 years. So I have a term of comparison, the big African tuskers. And still, for me, the animal that will impress me the most on this planet will be an Asian elephant, which will be high, robustly built, with high domes on top of the head, and with enormous ivory. One animal like that, you know, ticking all these boxes, this is the ultimate animal on planet Earth. And if you put that one with an African elephant with the same shoulder height, and even with the same ivory size of both big tuskers, you know, trust me, the Asian will be more impressive. You probably don't believe me now. You think the African already has the bigger ears and all that. But, you know, I've been close to these animals and working with them closely for the last 10 years. And yeah, nothing impresses me more than a big, high dome, robustly built, big tusk Asian elephant. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for your wishes. I think my dream is to see a bear in the wild, especially in Romania, because I've done hiking before, and I think the way the ecosystem is going, I think my chances are increasing, which is not necessarily a good thing. But yeah, that would be my dream. I'd seen help me please, not wild goats, but the Romanian literal translation is wild goats, but it's not.
The black goats of Romania.
Yeah.
Chamois.
Chamois.
Yeah.
Chamois, capra negra, yeah? This is
Yes, yeah. I've seen them
chamois.
quite up close, actually, by complete surprise. And that was amazing. That was startling. And we were coming down this really narrow valley, and we had to use some cables to walk down, because actually it was a rock face, a portion of rock face. And they literally just popped up above us, and they were watching us making this really awkward and clumsy descent, you know, using ropes and your friends holding you and so on. And I thought, this must be hilarious to them.
Yeah.
This must be like
doing it wrong.
Yeah, free entertainment's like, look at these awkward, unadapted animals out of their depth. You know, but they literally, they were like from here a few feet away, except they were on the side of a rock that you couldn't reach, and you were just trying to stay vertical for dear life.
If I can jump in, actually, what most of the people don't know is that for European species, the biggest are usually from Romania. The biggest everything. The biggest chamois, the world record, not the former, the world record is from 1934, from the Carpathians, I think from Făgăraș Mountains, and was the cover of Reckoning to Carpaților, I think was called, that magazine, from 1934. And then the other top spots were hunted by the former dictator, Ceausescu. Then for the wolves, the top 10, I think, wolves in Europe, they are all from Romania. For the bears, from the top 12 European bears, there are 8 from Romania, I think, and 4 from Russia. And Russia is a bigger country, even the European part. So they really get big in the Carpathians, everything. And I'm explaining that in the book. When you have the picture with the bear from the Carpathians, I'm explaining that wolves and red deer and chamois and bears and wild boar, they are all bigger in Romania than anywhere else in Europe, and sometimes are the biggest or the second biggest in the world. For bears in the whole Eurasia, they are bigger only in Kamchatka. So you have to get to the Pacific Ring of Fire to get bigger than that. Yeah. For wild boar, bigger than the Romanian wild boar are only the Ussuri wild boar in the Russian Far East, which are the prey of the Siberian tigers. Yeah, that's the only wild boar bigger than the one in Romania. Just to tell you that in Romania, the big wild boar the big males can get to 300 kilograms. Yeah, in Spain they hardly get over 100 kilograms, and in Germany I think they can hardly get to 200 kilograms. But in Romania they can reach 300. So. And I'm explaining also in the book why I think, and I'm giving several reasons why most of these characters are bigger in Romania. And there are several reasons for that. It's also because part of the Carpathians were volcanic. And when you look on the world map, this is something that I discovered and I explain in the book. The biggest megafauna is usually in volcanic areas. You know, the biggest tuskers in Africa are on the Great Rift Valley. East Africa, yeah. The biggest antlered giant moose in North America, it's Alaska, is the Pacific Ring of Fire. The biggest bears in the world are Alaska and Kamchatka, the both sides of the Bering Strait. Again, the Pacific Ring of Fire. So this is one of the things. The other thing is big areas of wilderness, because in Romania we still have the biggest swathes of primeval forest in temperate Europe. So if you give enough habitat to these animals, they can reach their genetic potential, yeah? And then there is the competition between, you know, the interaction predator and prey. Because wild boar are getting bigger and the wolves are getting bigger to be able to prey on wild boar. And also the red deer is getting bigger, yeah, to defend from wolves, and wolves are getting bigger because they prey on the red deer. And this kind of relationship, predator and prey, they were studied in North America and Canada, in the Wood Buffalo National Park, where you have the biggest bison in the world and the biggest wolves. And you know, the bison got bigger and the wolves got, you know, big enough to put down the bison. But people don't know that in Romania we have the second biggest wolves in the world. And they evolved big because they are preying on the second biggest wild boar in the world and on the biggest red deer in the world. Yeah. So you see, this is amazing. People don't know that actually we have so many records, world records coming from Romania concerning brown bears, gray wolves, chamois, red deer. We used to have former world record. All these things are amazing. Great bastards, or even for birds. Yeah, even for birds.
Mm-hmm.
And these things are explained in the book. So if Romanians want to buy this book, they will find a particular reason for pride for buying this and seeing that things, because also when talking to Romanians, they are not aware that Romania has this kind of exceptional megafauna and comparing to other countries. And we have one more thing in Romania, and maybe with that I will end this this intervention, we have what I call the more than $1 million baby. What is that? There are only a few animals on the planet of which the value, the market value of only one individual is more than $1 million. And you know what we have? We have the beluga sturgeon. The beluga sturgeon producing the beluga caviar in the Danube Delta, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. 100 years ago, and I'm explaining in the book, sturgeons in Danube Delta, they could reach almost 1 ton. And they could have more than 1 kilograms of the first quality caviar, because the bigger the female fish is, the bigger also the roes. And the bigger the roes, the higher the price, because this is considered higher quality caviar, yeah? And today, the biggest sturgeon that was caught in the Danube Delta was 300 kilograms, a female, still a big female. And she gave, I think, about 30 kilograms of caviar, first quality caviar. If you put the selling price of the small pots of caviar of 50 grams, 100 grams, you know, in luxury shops, you add that, you see that actually it will be a multi-million dollar, the value of one individual of the species. I calculated that for the bigger individuals, it could go, I think, up to $7 million, yeah? So this is one of the very few countries in the world having in its megafauna a particular animal which is worth on the market more than $5 million one individual. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Talk about the book. Actually, it makes me feel like it needs to come with a very hefty conservation kind of education program, as well as to go alongside the pride, because one of the things that we see is the fact that we don't actually know how to appreciate what we have in terms of the riches in Romania, in terms of virgin forests, in terms of habitat and fauna, flora, etc., etc. So yeah, it brings to the forefront so many of the more serious issues. But one of the things that strikes me, and maybe not necessarily something that we've discussed about, apart from the photography, is the writing. And living in the UK, I've learned very, very early in the process that British people love a catchphrase. It's one of the disadvantages, as far as I'm concerned, as a foreigner, having studied English for all my life, and then coming to the UK, they start talking to you in references and catchphrases. And the witty banter is one thing they prize above everything else. And I'm just thinking back to what you were saying, if something can promote the book in the UK and UK loving countries or English loving countries, I think it's the titles. I mean, how does one come up with weapons of moose destruction?
Yeah, yeah. I really gave it a thought, especially because normally my levels of English, you know, it's quite good. So I wanted it really to go into this British spirit of playing with the words, you know, coming. And that is why I said the mooses of the moose, you know, don't moose with me, weapons of moose destruction and all that. So I came up with this kind of catchy phrases, catchy titles for chapters, for pictures, you know, because I thought that is something that will be memorable and will get people to remember it. Yeah. Thank you so much for carefully reading the book and spotting it.
Oh no, definitely. And it's not just the wording, which is quite frankly a testament of your birth town, Iași, where most you know, big writers come from. But it's also the pairing of some of the photography. you've got this picture in the book of a absolutely humongous lion who just sits there like a kitty cat with his tongue sticking out. And then the title of The Legendary of Barbary. It's like, really? so, so, you know, it's definitely there's wit all over the book, and there's such a carefully curated way of just writing not just literature, but also history and conservation and geography and so much more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I put a lot of effort. I gave it, a lot of thinking. And as I said, the first draft was what I wanted to say, but then the subsequent drafts was how I wanted to say. And it took me a while to get to, a form and shape that I said, okay, this is publishable. Now I can, I can share it with a wider audience.
Thank you very much for that. Going back slightly to the earlier conversation about raising awareness and about knowing what you want to do with your book, the science side of things and using the photographs as a vehicle for the scientific information. What have you found has been the impact of your book in Romania and or abroad?
Well, it starts to have some impact, but of course, because I'll need, more marketing, more impact will come, with broader distribution. But already, for instance, the chief curator of the Dublin, for instance, Museum of Natural History, he's an expert in of course, unsurprisingly, in the Irish giant deer, yeah? And normally, when you read all those things about giant deer, it just says, he sported the biggest antlers in history of any deer. But now, I watched some presentations he delivered online. He now retired, but he's still working, and collaborating with the museum. And now in his presentations, and he's a big name, so people are listening to him, he's saying, look, actually, recent research is actually my book, shows that the giant moose of today sports antlers of pretty much the same size of the giant deer of the past. It's just a different shape, so they don't have the same span. They are not so impressive when you look, frontal view, but they grow, more backwards. They have also the frontal palms. And when you look at the thickness of those, when you weigh them, the overall mass, the bone in those antlers is pretty much the same in both deer species. And this is also should not come as a surprise, because for deer, the antlers come usually as a percentage of the total body mass of the animal. And the giant moose is usually taller and slightly heavier than the giant Irish deer. So biologically, it can develop, slightly bigger antlers. It's not something, that should come something unexpected. This is one thing, like scientific impact from that perspective. Another sort of artistic impact, for instance, this picture with the warrior of the Carpathians, this bison in snow in Romania. Actually, a lot of Romanian photographers, they sent me messages and they said that this image inspired them to go and look for this bison in the Carpathians, either in this place or in other places. And they hope to take pictures as good as that one or better than that one. And, they didn't really manage, but they went there and they enjoyed nature. They enjoyed meeting the bison. It was great. And this contributed because I offered also these pictures for the social media of the protected area, where the picture was taken. And this helped also raise a lot the profile of that natural park, and get more media exposure, more funding, more eco-tourists coming. So you can see already impact, this kind of impact. Then the research, as I said, on the ivory size in elephants, people now are starting to acknowledge in international conferences, are starting only. But as I said, because there were still naysayers, I went even further with my research. I discovered new world records. So I will get things straight, and I will put back to where they belong to, the Asian and African elephants. They are not, something, small and diminutive when compared to the woolly mammoths. No, they are pretty much in the same league. Yeah. So this is the kind of impacts that I'm looking forward to. I want to see scientific impacts. Yeah. This is, I think, the thing that matters the most to me, to see that I can change wrong perceptions, that I can show the conservation value of these animals. Because if you realize that they are so impressive, of course, the next thing is how can we protect them? Yeah. So this comes naturally because all of a sudden they have more value. Yeah. All of a sudden they have more value. So you want to do something to save them. And this is very important for me. Then, of course, it's important. It's nice when a fellow photographer tells you, your picture inspired me. I went there just because I saw your image. This is nice, to see that you can take it to the next level. You can create an image, which generates a certain times of emotions in the viewers, certain time, of desire to visit that place, to witness that for yourself. This is always, pleasant. So these are the kind of impacts I have so far, but I would love to have, more impact. I would love to have, a movie done, a documentary, based on this book, to reach a wider audience, to people watch it like the Jurassic Park. But this is for real, Jurassic Park is science fiction. It's a lot of fiction. It's based on science, but it's a lot of fiction. Here is science.
This is what happens when you're popular. No worries, no worries.
So Serena, are you going to ask the next question, or?
I will do, yes, of course. I'm just checking the channel for additional queries, and just waiting for Dian to come back to us. But
Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah,
Yeah.
everything is fine. Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry.
Can we just check? Because
somebody calling me who didn't know that.
that's
and
fine.
when somebody
That you're in
You
the
should have
live stream.
answered. You should have answered and just put them on the loudspeaker.
Put them on the Zoom. Can I just check, because I've had a look at the clock and we're loving this, but we've been live for an hour and a half. Are you happy to carry on? We have more questions.
Or we can skip a few and
Because it's what, 9:30 where you are?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, are you happy to carry on with the full list of questions? You want us to start?
I think we can carry on a little bit, but then maybe
Okay.
I'll join
Okay.
because I'm here also with a couple of also passionate friends about it. Just happened,
Yeah.
about wildlife and nature, and I will maybe rejoin them.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
No worries. So if that's the case, then going back to the conservation side of things, I was just wondering if there's anything else that you would like to share in terms of conservation initiatives in Romania or elsewhere.
Sorry, what kind of
Conservation initiatives. So anything that you are involved in or aware of in terms of actually preserving and conserving the environment for these beautiful giants to carry on and enjoy themselves.
This collaboration that I had for years is this with this bison land, the land of bison, which is in the Moldovan part of Romania. This is a long lasting collaboration, which is going very well. Then another thing that I wanted to do, and I tried to suggest to some people to get some funding, I would love to see the reintroduction of the great bustard, in Dobrogea, in the southern part of the country, because now the only great bustards are in the west of the country, just few left. But this is, the biggest flying bird in the world, the heaviest flying bird in the world, the heaviest flying bird in Europe. And this used to be an iconic bird, you know, of the Romanian steppe. So this is something that I would love, you know, that is a kind of project. So if people with money, you know, there is a project in the UK going right now about reintroduction of the great bustard in the UK. So this is something that I would like to see in Romania, in the steppe region. And if our people, you know, who can take decisions, have the money to work on that, please do it. This is a kind of conservation initiative, which I think it's important for the country. And then, of course, preserve, you know, the big habitats that we have, the Danube Delta World Heritage Site, which is an amazing place. It's one of my favorite destinations. I visit it in almost every season, yeah, in winter, in summer, in spring, yeah. It's an amazing all year round destination for all sorts of purposes. You see different species in different seasons, different behaviors. It has a very high conservation value. And then, of course, there are all these protected areas along the Carpathian Arch. Yeah. But these are also, I think, important, and they are important that they will be at some point connected. Because now we have, you know, a bison population, for instance, in Sarcu Mountains. Then we have now a new one in Făgăraș. Then we have the other one in this Neamț area. But will be nice to see all these populations connected, and then connected further north with the bison from Ukraine. You know? Because this will give also more biodiversity to the gene pool. You know, there will be natural exchanges in the populations. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, I know you're in Romania at the moment, but where are you traveling to next to research or to take photographs?
Well, I will see. It's not yet clear because I depend a lot also on my work schedules or availabilities, and then I depend on certain wildlife sightings and progress of certain, you know, issues. There are certain projects that I follow very closely in East Africa, in Kenya and Tanzania. Yeah, it's about saving the big tusk elephants. And what I wanted to achieve with this book was to raise enough money to put 24/7 bodyguards to a big tusk elephant. And that will be important because that happened in Africa before, and this will provide around-the-clock protection. Such an elephant, especially from poachers, you know, from other people who may, you know, not be happy that the elephant comes to their crops and may, you know, put, you know, a spear in the elephant. And that is why this is, I think, very important. It's a subject on which, you know, I work. On the one hand, I try to collaborate with these colleagues in Kenya. On the other hand, I have other contacts in Tanzania of people who seem to be even more motivated to make it happen. And I think they are pretty advanced. They are pretty advanced, and we may have some great news for the whole world pretty soon. I don't want to say more for the time being, but that will be historical. That will be a historic conservation achievement to have for the first time in the last 30 years again, bodyguards to a big tusker in Africa. That is something I'm really looking forward to, because this is the best way to protect and to study the animal, you know, to have people, armed rangers following the movements of the elephant 24/7. Yeah. And because there are so few individuals with this size of ivory left, in Africa we have about 30 really big tuskers and about maybe another 100 emerging ones, yeah, possibly emerging ones. And if you plot that against the total population of African elephants, which is probably about 500,000, in 500,000 you have only 30 big tuskers, yeah, and another 100 emerging ones. There's very little, yeah, when plotted against the total population. And each of them is enormously important. And some of them are even more important because they are pleasant, also more pleasant to the eye. They have symmetrical ivory. The ivory grows really to touch the ground. It's really like in that novel of Wilbur Smith, plow the earth. Yeah, they plow the earth because they have to raise the head to walk. And when they walk, you know, sometimes they leave traces on both sides, you know, as they walk, of the tips of the tusks, you know, scraping the ground. Yeah.
That is an amazing image. Thank you. Yeah, very different from the ploughing that we we're thinking about. In that case, let me ask you the last question of this evening. It's a question we ask all of our authors, and in some cases, the one that trips them up the most. So we'll let you cheat. The question is, what book would you recommend for our Carta de Vineri project? So a book either by a Romanian author or that is somewhat related to Romania. And if you want to use your own book and the quotes and the poems that you've got as preambles to your chapters for inspiration, you can have a minute to think about it.
I'm personally a big fan of the national poet Mihai Eminescu, you know. And when I was a kid, I actually won a contest of saying, you know, as many poems by Eminescu as possible. So I managed to win that contest. I was really fascinated by the way this man managed to write. You know, sometimes I'm saying, because foreigners, they ask me, why should I learn Romanian? You know, it's one question that I sometimes get. And I say, look, the first answer that comes to somebody's mind, maybe because you like a Romanian girl or Romanian woman, right? So be like, but another thing is to read the original Eminescu. Yeah, I think that is a strong reason to really learn Romanian to a proficiency level, to really enjoy it, because his poems are, you know, are the best that I could find, you know. Of course, they are in my language, so I can really absorb their meaning. And yeah, Eminescu, I think, is the thing that is that great thing that I look, you know, up to.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very much.
There is, for instance, a good translation of Eminescu that you are aware, maybe to invite, because there are certain good translations that I used in my book, you know. Maybe you can invite some of those authors of those translations. That would be maybe interesting to share, you know, the process they went through when translating Eminescu from Romanian to English.
You'll never finish this conversation. You're talking to Andra and she loves translations. So, it's never ending. But thank
I
you.
have a love-hate relationship with translations. I love how they enrich people's lives. I absolutely hate doing them myself, especially for literary works. It's so tough.
Yeah, it is. It's not easy. Nobody said it's easy.
But it is an enjoyable outcome in the same way that is your book, the corollary of an absolutely tremendous amount of work and tremendous amount of investment, personal as well as financial and time consuming and all of that kind of stuff. So again, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to see that some of the people that are watching us are actually inquiring where to purchase the book now. So we've put the links in the chat, and hopefully that will result in selling a few more copies.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's on the Amazon UK, Amazon Germany, Amazon Netherlands, Amazon United States. It's also in all sorts of bookshops. You know, you just Google the title and my name, and you'll find it in different locations. You know, yeah.
That's right. And if ever you fancy starting up again a Kickstarter for your documentary, please do let us know, and we would love to support as much as we can.
Sure. I will see, but you know, it's a long process, and it will take me a lot of courage to do again something like that, because really it's, you know, I prefer rather to put my energy into science and art, but then when it comes to all this, to do also this, it's very little energy left to do also that. It's everything, it's so much, you know, time and energy consuming, and I put so much of myself into it, and then it's hard. Maybe I will try it again, but yeah, we'll see. Thank you so much.
I think everybody around this group thinks you should. So we'll see you around soon, we hope. But thank you ever so much for your time
Thank
and
you.
sharing so many insights with us.
And thank you to everyone who's been listening in. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for your time and enjoy the weekend. Night night.
Thank you very much indeed. Great task, Salit.